Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to New Kingdom Church Community. Good morning. It's afternoon. It's 12. Good afternoon, and welcome to New Kingdom Church Community Day, um, being presented by the Alpha and Omega Group, ran by Reverend Dandy. Almost. I'm sorry. I'm super nervous. Um, my name is Sister Rebecca. I am a part of the grief ministry under Alpha and Omega. Today's first speaker is going to be Zarina Lomax from the Epilogues. She's going to talk to us about grief and the different services that she provides to people who are undergoing grief and trauma therapy and the different resources she provides. So let's welcome Zarina.
Good morning. Well, thank you, Rebecca, for extending the invitation. Blessings to no kings in here, but all the queens here. My name is Zarina Lomax. I have the Epilogues organization. It's a fashion and art exhibit. We tell the story of slain victims and survivors through fashion, music, and art. But a lot of people think I'm the gun violence girl, but that is not my story. My first institution of trauma was actually rape. Was raped from the ages of 5 to 8 by my favorite uncle. And my father came back in my life on and off for a couple of years. And at 17, he got locked up. He actually stabbed somebody over $50 from a crime. So my father is serving a life term with no parole. So before 18, I had experienced a lot of trauma that many people have not, even in their older years. In my teenage years, in my 20s, promiscuous. Got saved at 28. I'm 38 now. Went to Bible college. Just graduated from Liberty University after. So in the last 10 years, God has pretty much shown me why I had experienced everything that I had experienced. At the age of 31, started my talk show at Philly Cam. I was there for 6.5 years. I would bring people on to share how they had overcome trauma in different rare forms, but also found themselves in God. In the midst of me in my fourth season, Dominique was murdered. She was murdered on 52nd and Market. She's not my daughter. She was like my little sister. Her mother's one of my best friends. She was murdered on 52nd and Market. She was 2 months shy of graduating from Penn State, and she was 23. So, in the midst of that, God definitely, I mean, my faith was definitely tested with that. Because unfortunately, in our carnality, we think that God does things. It happens to certain people. She didn't live the lifestyle. She had went to church that day. She went to her mother's house. She went to get something to eat, and she was gone in 20 minutes. So her father, her grandfather was shot, but she died. So when I was doing that, I started bringing families on to my talk show to basically share of overcoming losing their children. Well, not really overcoming, but really the process of it. My first actual interview was her mother 3 months after Dominique died. So that was the first one. When I did that, I would meet a lot of families in the community and would offer them that slot. They didn't want to come onto the camera, or I just didn't have enough spaces for them. So I created the Epilogues, which is what we have now. We did our first fashion, art, and music exhibit in October of 2018, and it sold out. Completely faithful. When I mean, I went on a fast 3 days before to pay those bills, but God did that. Did it again, and it sold out again, and we made it on Good Day Philadelphia, and just began to like start going nationally. But then COVID hit. So in the midst of that, tried to run and go to LA and move there. And the Lord sent me right on back here. I'm back in Philadelphia. I came back out here in September of last year to visit and got in a car accident and was hit by a drunk driver. And I had just gotten into a film program in LA. So when God wants you to do something, He'll send you back. So I've been back here almost a year now. Really been back outside maybe like 6 months because I had to heal from that accident. But this has been quite the year because God continues to show me what He desires to do with all of my trauma. So I do have mentees, so I do that. I still go live with the parents on my platform because I'm no longer on Philly Cam because I just came back, but I go live with the family. So I'm like in a Yana Van Zant kind of meets Oprah. I tell the story, but I'm very much into healing. What are you going to do with it? A lot of times people kind of get stuck in the day their children transition, but it's one day in their life. They had many other days that they lived amazing, amazing lives with you guys. So I try to focus on that more. So the actual exhibit that we have now that Rebecca is a part of is called the Epilogues. Is at City Hall. We have 45 co-victims of gun violence and wearable art. We just part. Well, I just partnered with Cheney. We just partnered with Cheney because the Lord sends people out. We just partnered with Cheney. I'm taking 30 families up there next month. So now we're going on a roll with it. And overall, the goal is art center with mental health resources as well as art therapy. So I'm a very creative person, super colorful. You'll see me the next time. I have many different colors of hair, but God uses this. It's just what it is. So when she say, "What's my resource?" Honestly, my resource is the Holy Spirit. Like He gets me into so many places that I know that I really don't belong. I always say I'm too churchy for the world, but too worldly for the church. I'm an ordained apostle. I have studied, preached, and everything else, but I do, unfortunately, because of my look, sometimes people don't think that I know God, but that helps me in the world because I've been able to pray with so many people and bring them to Christ. So a lot of people that actually support me are not Christians. They're not saved. Some are Muslim. Some don't believe in anything. But I've watched God use it, and they come to my events. I might put a cross on the back or something, pray over it, or have somebody come in and perform that you wouldn't think is a Christian performer. So I see God using it. So what I would say the biggest resource, of course, is I am able to get people that feel unseen to be seen because I know what it's like to feel unseen. I also understand, unfortunately, what it's like not to have the love from a father that you would want to also lose. And then again, in being raped, I went through a lot of different things in my teenage years when I was 15. I'm extremely transparent, so I tell my whole story. I found out I had HPV from my uncle. So that's on the TV now, but 20 years ago, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know I could have a life. So God has used all of that, and He sends me to young ladies and a lot of young men as well that are raped. I'll share my story and they end up telling me. So, and as far as me being a resource, I'm a listening ear. I connect people to grief therapy, but I absolutely love art. I look forward to how God is going to use this museum because every story is communal. I don't tell any story that's not from our community, but I do it in a crafty way that'll cause people that have not come from this world to want to be involved. So I was just at something last night for NFTs. They don't come from this world, but we need the resources to put back in our community. There's a really big crab in a barrel mentality in Philadelphia. People that's out there, y'all get it. They'll fight you over that $20,000, which is not enough to do anything. So for me, I'm just in another space now where I'm going more into the crypto side or any type of foundational side to be able to get the resources to give back. Micro grants will be the ultimate goal to give back to the families financially, therapeutically. They don't have anything in Philadelphia mostly for you to survive. They give you a couple of five therapy sessions with your job or something like that when you lose someone, a couple of days off, but you're in recovery for the rest of your life. And I'm in recovery for the rest of my life. I'm now a survivor, but it took me 20 years to get to that space. I was 28. Never got an apology, never probably will, never need it. I prayed. My last thing that I said to my uncle is that I hope that you find the Lord the way that I know him. Because without those things happening, I wouldn't know him the way that I do. So that's really it. For me, also, what I would also say too is if you're not a parent or a close loved one of someone who was murdered, that's why I did co-victims. I really think it needs to be redefined because they say a co-victim is someone that's close to the person. I don't believe that. You can meet a person and they can have an impact on your life in 5 minutes. And when something happens to them, it will affect you. These kids, they meet people all the time and it affects them. Children, teachers, people on the bus where you go pick up your food. You know, your favorite people in the community, all of us are co-victims. So a lot of the numbers that they are pushing to is very much too small. They only count 561 victims, but it's over 1 million people in Philadelphia that's affected. So if you make the numbers large, you get more funding and you can help to give back to the community more. So that's why the shift went to co-victims, but I do still do victims because again, that is still my story. But just really trying to focus more on the people that God still have here to figure out what they're going to do with their grief and to be able to help other people. So if you know someone that lost their life to gun violence, survived, rape, opioid abuse, all of those different things, or even some youth that are looking for a mentor, please send them to me. Because if it's not myself, as Rebecca said, I'll connect you to different resources. So Parents and Murdered Children is one, Moms Bonded by Grief, Voices by Choices. Those are different grief support groups started by family members, started by people that lost their children. And then when it comes to youth services, it's Forget Me Not. One of this young lady, she's there. And I'm going to take her on as I plant the seed, Power Circle. They're all around here. Power Circle's in Frankfurt. So, and Buddha say, but he's right out here in the community with the kids. So a lot of the people that I know, we don't always look like what we believe, but we're very much out there. So I would implore you guys to come out with us. We need more believers out there with us. I always see a lot of power in here, but they need it outside. And that's what Jesus was. He really came, he talked to the people at the temple that he went outside. So that's where we're supposed to be. People may think that their stories don't matter or they don't want it, but they do. Even if they say they don't believe, you keep talking to them, they want God and they're looking for him. And we are the church. We are Christ ambassadors, right? The Bible says that he says they be reconciled to God, and he implores us on Christ's behalf, but he's using us. So I would say whatever y'all got going around here in Frankfurt is very right for ministry. They need y'all outside. Please go outside. Please come and be a part of these organizations. Talk to these kids. This young lady just walked up to me today. Just because I come around and I was just in position. It's not always that you'll go talk, but being in position, they'll come up and talk to you guys. So it's so many families that need it. But that is definitely my biggest thing is, again, I'm a listening ear and I will connect you. And again, when God allows me to cut that ribbon, I'll be having my own art center. So God bless you guys. And thank you for giving me the mic. Yes. Yep. So it's portraits. It's moving more into the fine art side. We paint the loved ones of those that lost their children to gun violence, but I also do wearable art. So if you look, I'll give you guys my Instagram. If you look on there, it's like I recreated a crime scene. So it's like a coffin shaped dress. It's a suit with bodies all over it with markers on it. Like I recreate things to make you think, but we also do the portraits of the loved ones as well. Anyone, parents, cousins, aunts, uncle, whoever can come and be able to share. In this case, it is the people that are still here. But if you want to memorialize a victim, you can. And we are not funded. So I did this all on the blood of Jesus. And faith, I was offered this. I was offered to do this art exhibit. I had 3.5 weeks, and God sent 30 artists to help me do this. And it's up there until October. And again, with Cheney, we're able to go out there, but I'm not funded. A lot of us that's out there doing the work is not, so it's all donation based. So again, if you guys want to donate, please see me. That would be absolutely a blessing. But yeah, we just basically take the stories. How I normally curate it is I listen to the person's story because I talk to everybody, know everybody that we bring here. And then I connect them to the artist based off the artist style and the person's story. So somebody may not be prepared to show their face. It may be something where it's faceless, or they might just interpret the person's story. It just depends. But it's moving into that space because they will pay for that. They love art. But we need finances back into our community. And we're the experts. We could tell our own story. So it's just allowing a person to tell the person's story, and then be able to go into a space that may not actually come here. A lot of these people are not going to come in our community, but they'll send their money if we give them a reason to donate. So this is just getting us into that space to be able to get the finances back and to get back to the same people that we're telling the story about in the first place. So that's what it is. So it's called the Epilogues. It's just a moral way to tell a story. Jesus spoke in parables. He likes to make you think, and that's what this does. Yep. Anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. Thank y'all. I'm sweating. I'm hot. I was outside, and I gotta go back outside again to another thing. But God bless you, ladies. This is a really nice church, and thank y'all for sharing this mic with me. Hopefully, I'll see you outside. Okay. My Instagram is Zarina Lomax. I'm the only Zarina Lomax on there. God must have known because I don't know how that happened. But Zarina Lomax, ZARINAH Lomax, LOMAX. Again, my organization is called the Epilogues. You can go to the website to donate. You can contact me on my Instagram if you want to share your story via art or you want to go live and share it. That website is the Epilogues, TheApollogues.org. I am always looking to tell the story. So if you're not ready now, you're ready next year. I will be around. Praise the Lord, and you come and share. Okay? You're welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Diane Young, and as Rebecca said, we're under Reverend Dandy, Alpha and Omega. We'd like to thank Pastor for allowing us to do this ministry. Today, I've been given the task of allowing people to talk with and somebody voice. I'm nervous. Okay, the task of allowing people from the two different funeral homes come in. Chrissy Edwards from Mitcham will be coming and speaking. Because I found out with doing grief is business before healing and anything else. So, welcome, Chrissy Edwards.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina Edwards. Everybody calls me Chrissy, and I am from Mitchell Wilson Funeral Home. I am the administrator there, um, and I just want to just make a quick comment on the young lady that was speaking prior to me. How funny God is, because she mentioned one of the grief uh, groups that she's associated with, Moms Bonded by Grief, and it just so happens that I know the originator of Moms Bonded by Grief because I buried her daughter, and that is how she got where she was. And Resi was so in need of counseling when her only daughter got murdered by someone who had just got out of prison 4 hours before. So it's amazing how God is. But I am here. I am like her. I'm very transparent. I'm very open. And so I always start with a question when I do these type of talks. By show of hands, who is ready to die? And I don't mean in the physical sense. Who is ready to die? Who is prepared for death? I mean, are you prepared for death? Because we as black people are the only people that think we're not going to die. So we are the only ones that don't prepare for it. And that is a problem. Wonderful. So that means you have insurance. That means you probably wrote down what your final wishes were and left it with someone that you trust. That means that you pre-picked everything that you wanted so that when you die, somebody's not putting you in something that you don't want to be in or cremating you when you want to be buried. There you go. That's what we need to do. You are one in 25 people that come to the table. And unfortunately, there's only two ways that you come to a funeral home. You come to a funeral home for a pre-need, or you come to a funeral home for an at-need. And if you're at an at-need, then your loved one has already passed away. I need you. Pre-need is, I need you, I like you, I want to prepare my own stuff. So when it comes to an at-need, we don't have any drama. You have way more drama in a funeral home than you think, and I'm not talking about a cemetery. I'm not talking about a funeral. I'm talking about the issues that go on at the arrangement table with loved ones who either don't have your best interest at heart, really don't care, or have scars that they never heal from you. So that's why I always tell people, write down what you want and make it plain. And have enough for what you want done. Don't tell your kids I want to be in a mausoleum and you only have $2,000 worth of insurance because you're not getting in a mausoleum. Because you have to keep in mind that every year, just like steak is high, hamburger is high, chicken is high, funeral costs are high. And I'm always real. I'm always real. Every single year, October 1st, funeral home costs go up and so do cemeteries. October 1st, every year. We're allowed to by law to go up, to raise our prices once a year. We try to keep up with the cost of living. You understand what I'm saying? You try to keep up with the cost of living. And sometimes people come in and they think that they should get everything for free. Well, we're not nonprofit. Funeral homes are not nonprofit business. We are for a profit. We're there to make a profit. But I'm saying all of this to say, if you don't have insurance, get some. If you have insurance, you should always reevaluate every 3 years what you have. Because what you had that was sufficient in 1985 is no longer sufficient in 2022. Because you bought 5,000 in 1982 and you could get buried for a whole 5,000. Now you need at least 10. And the commercials that you up when you late at night and you can't sleep and you see Alex Trebek talking about the average cost of a funeral, he is not lying. He is telling you the truth. Now, you could go more extravagant or you could go less extravagant. But I say if you live large, then you should be able to take care of yourself and death large too. So don't leave that burden on your loved ones behind. The average cost would cost, the cemetery costs are separate from the funeral home costs. Each cemetery has a different price point. So Marion Memorial may cost $2,500, but Rolling Green costs $6,000. So if you got to make those determinations too, keeping in mind, check your insurances, upgrade them if you need to, add on if you need to, and you don't want to wait till it's too late where your premiums are going to be sky high or you can't get insurance. Most funeral homes, at our funeral home at 20th and Reed Mitchell Wilson Funeral Home, we have one-time insurance where you come in and you prepay. You have an insurance policy just for your funeral so that you don't have that burden or that stress that you leave on someone. Um, it's already a stressful time when someone dies. And all people always come in and they make me laugh when they say, I wasn't expecting it. Well, you should expect it because death is going to happen regardless. It happens all day, every day. And with the situations that we have in the city now with all of this violence, it's nonstop. It's nonstop. Cemeteries are filling up fast. With COVID, it was such a horrendous thing that cemeteries are running out of space. So I always encourage people, if you have a cemetery that you want to go to that cemetery outside of the funeral home and pre-buy your grave. You can do that. And that would save you a lot of money because you're getting locked into 2022 prices. You may live another 30 years, but you locked into the 2022 price. So you can't come back to me and say, "Oh, you owe me an additional 2,000 because of the cost of living." No, I bought it in 2022. It's mine. I own it. Just keep in mind different things that will be costly. You may purchase a grave, but you always have to remember that you have to get it open and closed. So you have to pay for those costs. So yeah, I bought my grave and I have a space, but how you gonna get in it if you don't pay me to open and close it? So these are the things that I want you say it again, sweetheart. Absolutely. Okay. Correct. And that's how they get you. That's it. You bought it. Grandma might have bought it back in 1969. She bought 4 plots. And folks, graves, you never want to buy a grave for just one person. You always buy a two-body grave. Always. You get a deed to the property. It's like a house. You have a deed. It's my property. I own it. You always want to do two-body because why? Death is going to come again. So you're going to need another space. But that's true. So you bought the grave for 600. You bought 3 plots at 600 a piece, but now it's 20 years later. It's going to cost you 2,500 to open and close it. Where it might be cheaper for you to just go purchase a new grave for 1,700. It just all depends. It all depends. You can, but that might be something that you might not be made aware of at the time you purchase your grave. You can purchase your grave and start paying on your opening and your closing too. Just like with a funeral, you could come in and say, Chrissy, I like this $5,000 casket and I want it. Pay for it. You could prepay for it so that when you, unfortunately, when that time comes and you have to sit at your table and that loved one has to sit at the table and make arrangements, I say, Mommy already did it. Here's everything that you need to know. Daddy already put everything together. Here's everything that you need to know. Now, anything that you want to do above and beyond, go ahead and do. But I know personally at our funeral home, I had my parents die. So death is the same to everybody. And it's going to affect you and it's going to come knocking at your door. My parents had their stuff together. There was nothing I needed to do but execute what they had already written out for me. My mother gave me a packet and said, when I die, all you got to do is open this. I did, everything was done. Now, I did some other stuff just because I just felt like I needed something to do. But everything was done from the grave, from the casket to the outfit to the cemetery. Everything was done. So I just encourage people to do that because who knows you better than you? I would even encourage you, write your own obituary. Because who can talk about you better than you can talk about you? You don't know me. And there's no need to put all your life story in the obituary because if they didn't know about you when you passed away, there's no need for them to know now. See what I mean? But again, all choices. I have a whole just as many drawer of pre-needs as I do at needs. And you can come in anytime. Chrissy, I did my pre-need like 2 years ago, but I want to make some changes. Because the person that you left in charge 2 years ago, you don't like them now. So I don't want them in charge. So you got to come in and change stuff up. You're able to do that. And do it while you have the opportunity to. Nobody wants to face the fact that, death is going to come, but it is. And I say, why not prepare? You prepare when you go on a trip. You prepare when you're gonna go shopping. You prepare when you go to the beach. Why not prepare for something such as your funeral? Yes, ma'am. Say it again. Oh, the mausoleums. It depends on the cemetery you go to. So they start. Keep in mind, mausoleums are priced based on height. Eye level, most expensive. It's like waterfront. So if you walk up to my mausoleum and see me, I'm gonna pay more for that. If you at the top, you're gonna pay less. So eye level may cost you 8,000. At the top, it's gonna cost you 4. Down the bottom, it's gonna cost you 6. So it just all depends where you're situated in your mausoleum. Some people don't want to be buried. Some people don't want to go in the dirt. Oh, mausoleums? No funeral home has a mausoleum. Mausoleums are at your cemetery. Correct. All cemeteries don't have mausoleums, so you have to do your research and find a cemetery that has a mausoleum and that has the space, and then buy it and pay on it. I do. Yes, I do. You know, I know, girl. Ivy Hill's full. Ivy Hill up in Mount Airy, they have a beautiful mausoleum, but it's full. They have no more space. Fernwood has mausoleums up on Baltimore Avenue, right before you get to Yaton. Um, West Laurel Hill has mausoleums in West Philly on Belmont Avenue. West Laurel Hill is the top of the line cemetery in the city. Is the best cemetery. So you looking at probably 15 just for up top. But it's a lot of them. Most of them have them. Shelton Hills has them. Ivy Hill, like I said, Ivy Hill's book. But most of them do have mausoleums. Who? Mount Peace. Mount Peace don't have mausoleums. Greenmount does have mausoleums, but check because they fill up fast. Yes, ma'am. All of them are individuals. Even though it looks like it's one wall, they are all individual mausoleums. Mhm. Those are what you call stand free mausoleums. The ones that look like houses inside the cemeteries, those are custom. You have to have those made. But a lot of the cemeteries don't have space for those anymore. So you have to already have had them built, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, you just don't want to be in the grounds. Personal choice. Just like I want a wood casket versus a white casket. Personal choice. I want pink flowers as opposed to red flowers. All personal choices. Go ahead. Not that I know of. They're not building more, and New Orleans is above sea level. That's why they can't bury. Right. Yeah, they got issues in New Orleans. They got issues just because of where they are located on the water. Um, right. Correct. That causes a lot of issues. But cemeteries, I mean, they are they fill up. They fill up. I don't know. That's why you gotta get your space now so you have a spot. Uh huh. Right. So there's only two ways, and that's called your disposition. There's only three ways that you can be disposed of. And I don't mean to say it like that, but it's called your disposition. You either can be cremated, you can be buried, or you can be donated. That's the only three things. The types of burial, green burial is still a burial. It just means that you are doing it more eco-friendly, so to speak. Muslims actually have green burials. That's exactly what Muslims have. They call them janazas, but they are actually green burials where you go back to the earth. Other than that, some people now they have stuff where you can be part of a tree and all kind of other stuff, but they do have that kind of stuff. But again, you're buried, you're cremated, or you're donated. No, that is illegal. You can't bury yourself on your own property. It is illegal. When there was no regulations. State by state is different. It's illegal in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm gonna say that, but state by state is different. Oh, that I don't know. I wouldn't even want to go out there and see grandma in the backyard every day. That's say it again. A lot of people did it. Like down south, a lot of people have family plots, family graves where they dig the grave and they bury their own, but that's just how they're set up down there. You know what I mean? It's different in each state, but that's how they do it down south, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Mhm. Yes. Yes, there are rules and regulations for disposing of ashes because ashes are nothing but a human being. It's just they are in a different form. And you can't just discard a human being any way that you want to discard a human being. So some people say, well, I'm going to spread that over the mountains in Jamaica. I said, okay, you can't do that. Right. But there are companies that will take your ashes, your loved one out in the middle of the ocean and do a sprinkling. That's legal because you're still issuing them the permit to do it. So even when you are cremated, you can still be buried. You can bury the ashes or you can just keep them. Correct. Correct. Well, ashes get buried at the head of the casket or the foot of the casket. So I don't need to open up a whole grave to bury ashes. So you can have a grave with two people in it and still have room for four cremations, two at the head and two at the foot. Do you still pay for opening and closing? Yes, but not like you would if you were opening a casket. If the opening and closing for a casket is 1,700, the opening and closing for ashes might be 400. You got your hand up. I'm sorry. Mhm. So that's a great question. No, that's a great question. You have to make sure that it is. You have to make sure. I know at Mitch and Wilson, we give the option to our families when we do cremations for you to go with us. So you can see that this is my loved one going into this receptacle to be cremated. And we show you the process on how the checks are balances from the moment that we bring that person there to the moment that they're cremated, how everybody gets tagged, how everybody does a number. We don't do communal cremations. We are all individual cremation. So yes, that is a great question. You have to make sure that that's your loved one. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. Do we have dates? Say it again. Okay. Oh, for the cremation? Not really. I mean, it's kind of a personal thing. But I would encourage you to go to a crematory because a lot of people think that it's scary, it's like you see in the movies. It's not. All of those myths are dispelled. It's very respectful, very beautiful, very peaceful. Absolutely. Yes. Mhm. So without getting too graphic, ashes are nothing but bones. That's all. And at the end, when the bones are left, then the bones are crushed, and that creates ash. So that's pretty much what ashes are. Mhm. No, when you cremate, ashes are nothing but bones that are have been crushed. Yes. You don't feel it. You had a question, sir, in the back. I'm sorry. Uh-huh.
Okay, I just buried my wife last year, and I have a life insurance policy of my own. So I guess the question is, will all the funeral arrangements, including opening and closing the graves, be covered by that insurance policy, or do I need to add on to it?
It depends on how much you have.
Okay.
So that's something that you got to take a look at and evaluate. So I would say, think about where I want to be buried. Am I going to be buried with my wife? If I'm going to be buried with my wife, how much did it cost me to bury her at that cemetery? So you know you're going to have that same cost, maybe more, God willing. We don't know. You know you're going to live a long time, so just going to keep going up. So I would just say take your policy, look at it, reevaluate it. If you can get more units on it, then I would say get more units on it. If you can start prepaying on something in terms of the cemetery, then that will cut down the cost at that at need time.
Okay.
Yes.
All right,
And then I will also say make sure, and this is another thing that people forget, you're married, you have a partner or whatever, you were the beneficiary of your partner's insurance policy. I'm sure
Yeah.
you were, it was vice versa with you
Right.
and your wife. Now that she's deceased, you have to remember to go change her as your beneficiary.
Yeah, I've already done that.
Correct. So that's something that people have to remember. If you were the beneficiary on a policy that someone passed away, remember to change the beneficiary because it's just a little more difficult getting it done. Yes, you're welcome. Every 3 years, I would. That's even better. That's even better. That's good. That's good. Oh, they can't hear the questions. So that's pretty much it. Again, we're at 20th and Reed. I hope I was helpful today. I hope. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You supposed to be using the mic.
I just want to ask when they have like the extravagant funerals, how much do they run? Like with the carriage, the the sending of the doves.
It depends on what you want and if you have the funds to do. I always tell people, listen, do what you can do. Don't try to do what Miss Jones and them did. Do what you can do.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, say if this is what I know that this is what I want, I'm trying to figure out. I want to make sure I have that. I mean,
I'll be
I
honest
know
with you.
I do, but I just want to make sure that my children still have after.
Correct. Correct. Um, I know now the horse and carriage is $2,500. No, it's $25 to get the body in there. Sure. Then why you have it? Yeah, that's crazy. No.
But that's not leaving from the funeral home or the church, right? That's meeting you at the cemetery.
That's wherever you want it to be. And here's another thing about the horse and carriage: animals have rights, so they only can go 6 miles. So that's why you have to determine where you want that horse and carriage to be. That's why sometimes you see it from the funeral home, and we might go by your loved one's house if it's close, or meet us at the cemetery, and they drive you into the cemetery. They can't go that far. They do. They have more rights than humans. Absolutely. Yeah, it's not far. But again, if you want that, then make sure that you have provisions to get it. And just keeping in mind, you're gonna live a long time, Lord willing. It might go up. So you just want to leave provisions for that. That's all, sweetheart. So I thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come and speak. Hopefully, I don't see you all as customers, but as pre-planners. And if you have any questions, you all could just give me a call. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. I'm back with the second half, and I have Troy from Savin.
Representative Buddy Savin in his presence, and he says hello and Godspeed to all. All right. The last days in our time, there are three things that we have to be cognizant of: what's going to be done with our bodies, and what's going to be done with our money and our property, and finally, what do we want for the people who we're leaving behind? Okay, so let's talk about our money, our property. It behooves us all to put people's name on property, on bank accounts. Give them that jewelry before you go, but keep it in your possession. Okay, things of that nature. If you have your bank account and put somebody's name on who's very responsible, then you don't have a problem when the time comes to pay your funeral, if that's what you want to do with your money, or to distribute it. Put somebody's name on your assets, including your house, your car. Okay? Pass some things away before you go. Okay? Now, as far as your body is concerned, you need to go to a funeral home. You need to talk with your family. Let them know what your plans are for yourself. Okay? Any funeral home is able to provide you with a program by which you can prepay your funeral and pre-plan it. Okay? After you do that, you go back to your family members, let them know exactly here's the plan, and all you have to do is make a phone call to the funeral home. Okay. All right. And basically, if there are any questions, yes.
My question is, say I come in and I pay for my funeral, but then say something happens like how we just had the pandemic happen and a lot of businesses down and stuff like that. Then what happens?
Our funeral home has a program which is funded by uh, oh boy, Pure Choice. It's a secure choice, and it goes into a fund which only way that the funds can be touched is with a death certificate. If the funeral home that you made the plans with goes under for any reason, those funds are transferable with a death certificate. So you have no problem with your money not being available at the time of need.
Kinda. She wants to know if you pre-plan, could you still use your life insurance?
Yes, 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 indeed. Any more questions? Yes. Just stand there.
Oh, does it matter? Like, I came in and I after that, I policy. I still
Yes, yes, yes. And as far as insurance policies are concerned, it's possible and it's a good idea to make the funeral home your beneficiary. That way, you don't have to worry about family members attempting to change things. Okay, it's only for the. We only take the value of the funeral, and the remainder we go to a secondary beneficiary.
So what happens if the funeral home goes away? Policy.
Death certificate is going to. The death certificate is going to. Um, Death certificate is going to state that there's a new funeral home in effect. However, if you are still living and you see that the funeral home is no longer in existence, You go to your insurance broker and change the beneficiary.
So, wait, so if a new funeral home is over, it automatically goes to them?
You change the beneficiary.
That's if I'm still.
Yeah. Go big.
Right. But no, but what about somebody don't?
Okay, if it don't change it over, it's just a little legal switch over. Okay, you notify the insurance company that the funeral home is no longer in existence and that you would like them to pay a different funeral home. They're going to ask for proof that the funeral home is non-existent. Then you just go to the State Board of Funeral Directors. Any funeral director who you're going to be dealing with will facilitate that for you. Okay? In recent past, many funeral homes have gone out of business and they have pre-need contracts. And families come to us and we make the funds available. Okay? That being said, no more questions. I thank you for your time. And I yeah.
It's time to. Sometimes.
Well, so, let me get this question. Yes. It's not. It's not a large difference. Not a large difference. You may be talking about paying for a limousine again. Okay? The venue may charge. If you have it at a church, they may charge for you being there overnight. But not much. Not much. Now, depends on the situation. On our funeral statement of goods and services is a section called cash advances. Those are the expenditures that the funeral home does not control. The cemetery, the cost of death certificates, the cost of the florist, the hairdresser, the printed programs, or an outside venue. Okay? We may ask you to pay those ahead of time in advance, and we will wait for the funeral home section of the bill, which includes our services, embalming, removals, casket and dressing, the casket itself, the cement container if it's required and if you purchase one, okay? The clothing that may be purchased. We will wait for that through the insurance. And, okay, in saying that, there is a funding agent that fronts the money to a funeral home at a percentage to be paid by the family if they need the money immediately. What type did they talk about? All right. There's a topical embalming, which just preserves the exterior of the body in cases where the body has been found after days and days and there's no viewing, but we want to preserve externally to keep odors and bacteria from growing. That is one type of embalming. And then after that, there would be no viewing. There would be no viewing. And then there's the arterial embalming, which preserves the body for a public viewing. Okay, due to religious beliefs, embalming is not required by your religion, Um, that's those people are not affected by the rule. The rule is if you're going to have a public viewing in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the body has to be embalmed within 24 hours of, of removing from refrigeration. Okay, if the body person dies at their home or a nursing facility, it never went into refrigeration. So it behooves us to embalm within that 24 hours. But after 24 hours, if you're going to have a public viewing in Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the body has to be embalmed unless it's religious. Yes. Okay. Right now, airfare anywhere in the United States is about $800. Okay. Then you have to pay the funeral home on the other side of the country. All right. Speak up. Speak up.
I'm sorry, like
Yes. You would contact one of the funeral director in one state or the other. Okay. Hopefully, you would contact the one that you're most familiar with. Okay. And that funeral director would make plans with the funeral director in the corresponding state, and they will secure airfare, a flight, embalming in the other state, and then bring it to our state to have a funeral, burial, or funeral and cremation. Yes. Say that again. Yes. Can't come across state lines unembalmed. Okay. However, we will contract a funeral home in another state that's reputable. Can't, we're not going to ship you basically on dry ice. Okay, it's risky business. It's done, but we choose to select the funeral home to embalm before they transport. I didn't say we don't. We choose not to. We never left the morgue. We're going to contract a funeral director in that state. Okay, and you say never left the morgue. Okay, and to move across state lines, you have to be embalmed. Okay, then we use the dry ice. Yes, yes, we do. We do genesis. It's an option. It is. Well, you contact us and you trust us, and we deal with reputable funeral homes. I, I know. I know. Yeah, it can't be undone. Yeah. Hmm. I have seen some bad work too. Hmm. Yeah. it is very important. No, you can't. And I mean, it's there are other options. Yes, there are. That is an option. A picture, closed casket. Okay, but that may not be what you chose. That's not what you chose. And if you you choose your funeral home, and they're going to go to a reputable facility out of state for you. We're going to make sure that the work is done well. Okay. 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 We thank you very much. We thank you on behalf of William Buddy Sapp, and God bless.
Good afternoon. At this time, we're going to take a break, and we'll tune back as soon as our next presenter come. And again, we thank y'all for tuning in.